This is Barry Pearl. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us as we continue our look at this week in TV history. This particular segment originally aired in March 2016. Tony?
All right, so March 9th, 1976, ABC premiered Family, a weekly primetime drama about a Pasadena, California suburban family. And I'm looking out of the window here. And
10 minutes away from the Pasadena Playhouse.
Yes.
Family, the show that Aaron Spelling wishes people would remember him by.
I remember that fondly, though, and in a class above the other shows. It was wonderful. There had never been anything like that on television before. Realistic family drama, at least realistic for, what year are we talking about?
1976.
Yeah.
Okay, it was grounded in reality. The characters seemed real. Was it an ongoing storyline, or was it a self-contained episode?
I believe it was self-contained, because we didn't. This is about 5 years before Bochco and Hill Street Blues, when we started to get into serialized or semi-serialized storylines. But I would say the closest thing to family on network TV at the time would be The Waltons.
Agreed. And I look at that differently because The Waltons was a period piece.
Yeah. But it was an earnest, realistic attempt at a quote-unquote typical American family.
And I think dialogue, as far as the dialogue was concerned, I don't think there was anything like it on television before.
No, I believe it is the only show Spelling did that won an Emmy. I don't think it won the Best Series award, but I do believe it won several Emmys as we speak. But
as well as several other awards.
Several other awards. I think it won I believe it won the Peabody Award.
Definitely. And I'm sorry, who was the mom in that?
Seda Thompson.
Did she win an Emmy?
She was nominated, I think, every year. She lost famously to Lindsay Wagner one year, which got a lot of controversy. But in defense of Lindsay Wagner, she picked a better episode.
Yeah, because they select episodes.
You know, the actor, when you're nominated, the actor selects an episode, and that episode is screened before the blue ribbon panel that makes the ultimate choice. And Lindsay Wagner chose a better episode that showed off her character and her skills than Seda Thompson did, and that's why Lindsay Wagner won that year. But I believe Seda Thompson won the following year.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not looking at a show where people are going to remember necessarily that one episode during sweeps that was sensational, that, guest stars or anything like that. But I think at the time they were really covering stuff that was plugged into the reality of a suburban family that you would have, and
things that would happen to you.
Exactly. And you're going against a very strong philosophy that's still alive today. That is, people want to watch television to escape, and they don't want to see that on TV.
If I remember correctly, there was an AIDS storyline in Family.
I think that I know there was a gay storyline in Family.
Gary Frank was I believe Gary Frank's character. I believe there's a gay storyline in there.
Yeah, you had that storyline, because I think the show was off the air by the time AIDS came on the scene.
That's right. Right. I stand corrected.
I remember there was a very special one about Alzheimer's, which featured Henry Fonda as the grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something, I don't think we were using the term Alzheimer's really a lot yet.
There's a dementia?
Well, I think it was just senile.
Senile, that's it. That's the word.
And I think when you, at that time, and please jump in if you have a different take on it, to cover the topic seriously, I don't remember anybody covering the topic seriously. You would have senile grandma or senile grandpa, and it was done for comic relief.
Yes.
A little forgetfulness. And that was just to make them more quirky, or they could deliver the punchline of the joke. But to actually have, grandpa staying and not knowing where he is, or thinking you're 6 years old when you're in your 50s, that I don't think was ever shown before. And where it's
what
do you do? Can Grandpa does Grandpa need to go away?
Two things. And again, going back to how we introduced Family, the show that Aaron Spelling wishes people remembered him by. Rita Lakin, who we had on our program a few months ago, one of the first female writer-producers in television. She worked with Aaron Spelling off and on throughout the 70s. And like a lot of people, Spelling was a dichotomy. He was capable of depth, but he sort of always seemed to go for the lowest common denominator and what worked. And so, like, she wanted Rita Lakin originally pitched when she pitched the idea of the Rookies to Aaron Spelling, she wanted to do a show that Stephen Bochco ended up doing 10 years later with Hill Street Blue, a more realistic look at the interpersonal relationships, whereas she pitched the idea to Spelling, and Spelling sort of took it and morphed it into the sort of the semi-soap opera approach that the Rookies did. Obviously, with Family, this is 5 years later. I mean, he showed that he did have an interest in exploring issues and doing realistic, dramatic portrayals. But I think there's also a reason why we think of Aaron Spelling as the guy who gave us The Love Boat and Charlie's Angels and stuff that is just on the surface and not beyond the surface. To answer your question, Christy McNichol and Gary Frank won Emmys for Family. Seda Thompson did not.
Christy McNichol, I remember her just before Family. She was doing a lot of after-school specials. I mean, she was a presence at that time.
And she wasn't your typical little girl on television. Yeah, she was a tomboy. She was kind of tough. She was outspoken. And that, as a young girl at the time, that was refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah, because not sugar and spice and everything nice. No.
And she could act. She was a very, very good actress.
And they added Quinn Cummings later on, right on the heels of her being in the movie The Goodbye Girl with Richard Dreyfuss and Marsha Mason. She was Marsha Mason's daughter, and they adopted a younger daughter. So,
Well, it was another good little actress.
Yeah. And you had Meredith Baxter. I think she was still Meredith Baxter Burney at the time.
Right. Yes. She was the daughter.
Yeah, she was the oldest daughter.
She was the oldest daughter. And as far as we're talking about legacy, James Broderick, who was the father on Family, is the father in real life of Matthew Broderick, Ferris Bueller, and
Sarah Jessica Parker's husband.
I was going to say Mr. Sarah Jessica Parker.
The producers on Broadway, things
That's
like
right,
that.
he did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the best acting on television at the time.
There were plans for a reunion movie. I remember that was highlighted, one time in TV Guide. James Broderick was already gone because he died, I think, a couple years after the show ended. And the basic premise was Seda Thompson's character planning to remarry, finding somebody else and the family not fully accepting the new guy and the new family dynamic. And that was going to be the push for it. But I don't think that ever went anywhere. Well, obviously it didn't happen. But
no, it didn't.
You get things like this, and sometimes they have these great ideas, and then one person's a holdout, or one person is not able to do it, or
the network just said no.
No, we don't want to do that. And it was at a time when reunion shows were very, very popular. They were, Leave It to Beaver, I think, really got the ground rolling with that.
Is it comedies that do better with reunion shows, do you think?
I think it just depends on execution and the people involved. I mean, I have found that, and there's no science. I mean, I've just found, just as an observer of these things, that when you get to the extent you're able to get the original writers or producers, the people who understand the the concept and why the original worked, if you have them involved in some capacity, you're going to get a successful reunion, regardless of whether it's a drama or a comedy series. I mean, Andy Griffith was a drama. I mean, the Return to Mayberry, that did very, very well.
Well, Andy Griffith was a sitcom.
It was a sitcom. That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what I meant.
but to do like a 2-hour movie,
Yeah.
the Leave It to Beaver one. Growing Pains did it also as a 2-hour movie.
Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's
His
Island.
Island, yeah.
I Dream of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie.
And I would think, like, the funny thing is when Leave It to Beaver did it.
I don't count that as because they had. We talked about this.
Yeah,
2 years
Yeah.
ago
it's
because
a
they had
little
Wayne
hard.
Rogers.
Yeah, I think there also has to be a certain nostalgia element because I think the Leave It to Beaver reunion movie that they did that spun off a new series. There was some heavy stuff, not devastating, but you did deal with the loss of their father, Ward.
Who I saw in Superman the other night.
No.
He played. Yeah, he played. He played an ex-con whose past came back to haunt him.
Oh.
Yeah, he did a lot of the the sci-fi stuff. He did a movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but Mystery Science Theater 3000. Just
Yes.
yeah, it's they're like this ascending a mountain that looked like Dairy Queen Mountain, which they made fun of.
And they were talking about the altitude, and the altitude was affecting all of them. Cigarette? Sure. Oh, forgot about that.
Yeah, the air's a lot thinner. Smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny that you do that. You deal with the death of Ward, Beavers getting divorced.
Yeah.
Things that in the original series they might not have touched on or very heavily on, and then still made it funny. But the thing is, you wanted to see these people again.
Yeah.
You wanted to go back to Mayberry. Again. There is a certain nostalgia thing, and I think if that is not
Nostalgia and a strong fan base.
yeah.
And nostalgia.
I think the fan base has to be a given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in order to sustain it beyond the initial 2 hour, it comes down to story and execution, and able to take it to the next level on an ongoing basis and keep it interesting.
And but also it's the characters, it's the place. I think is something you saw the house from Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
You saw the town of Mayberry. If you try to do it and there's somewhere else. Doesn't always work if it's not the same cast.
Columbo was able when ABC brought back Columbo in the 80s and through the 90s. I mean, it was still Columbo. He was still hobnobbing in L.A. and Hollywood and in and off movie sets and in Beverly Hills. It was still the concept of the schlub taking on the rich and powerful.
Yeah, it's not like he was retired and living on Catalina Island or something like that. You still kept very much. It just picked up where it left off.
Exactly.
It was not. In the when we last met, Columbo was doing this, and now he's doing this. No, Ironside when they did, it's obviously Chief Ironside was retired, and he took
the
on
Ironside when Raymond Burr redid Ironside.
Yeah. When they came back, he wasn't really
not when Blair Underwood did it.
No, y'all.
Of which the less said, the better.
Yes, but
that was a depressing show. I like Blair Underwood, but that was a depressing show.
I will just say I love Blair Underwood.
Yeah. And that speaks to having respect for the source material, which also is, I think, key when you're doing a reunion.
Well, no, look, I didn't mind that they made Ironside African American, but there's just two questions. One was why. I mean, why bring it back? It's just was there a burning desire to bring back Ironside? And two, there was an attempt. There was a deliberate attempt to just make it as dark and gritty for the sake of making it dark and gritty. And
was that the trend a few years ago?
That seems to be the trend now. And dark is not necessarily better.
No.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hi, this is Lindsay Wagner. You are listening to TV Confidential.
Where were we? Oh, so family. Let's go back.
Do we have more to say about family?
No, I don't think so. But I think
That's why we're talking about remakes.
Yeah, but I think, they were going to do that reunion. But I think, honestly, you summed it up right in the beginning of the show that Aaron Spelling wished people would remember because it was quality stuff. I think, it was around at the same time as Eight is Enough.
Yeah.
And Eight is Enough had, I think, 2 or 3 reunion movies.
And that's a show I could never watch.
Yeah.
Because it was a little too sweet and syrupy for me.
That was interesting enough. Eight is Enough was also done by Lorimar, which did the Waltons.
Yeah.
So, which kind of, because when we started our conversation about family, we were talking about how family, the closest thing to family on network TV at the time was the Waltons. Although the difference was family was contemporaries. So now of course, Eight is Enough was based on the book by Tom Braden, who was a columnist for a newspaper up in Sacramento. But obviously, they decided to make it a little too sugary.
Yeah. Also, when we look at the Waltons, Walton started out as a Richard Thomas or John Boy vehicle. The other characters on especially when John Boy went off to war.
John Boy was based on Earl Hamner.
Yeah, and the characters the other characters carried the show.
Yeah.
I think Ralph Waite really did carry the show for a while. But we talked about this earlier. When you have a lead leave. This time it was not because of anything, contentious or anything. Just a decision was made.
He did as much as he felt he did as much as he could with the character, and he wanted to move on and do something else.
Yeah, which some might say the show jumped the shark there, but there you had something where the other siblings, parents, all that they kind of picked up the slack.
Well,
and also keep in mind, you had then Michael Lerner kind of had the same thing that she wanted to go and do something else. Nurse Olivia Walton was still around?
That's right. They recast her.
No, they did not recast her. I think they probably learned from John Boy. No, remember she had.
I don't remember. That's why I thought
she had. Obviously, you don't know. No, she had an illness, and I think she went to a sanitarium in the southwestern Arizona.
Okay.
She had a respiratory problem, so it was healthier for her. And sometimes she'd be on a phone call. She did some stuff. She was doing the show Nurse in New York, so I know she made an appearance where they actually shot scenes in New York and added it to the episode. But the
Waltons versus Eight is Enough. The Waltons was still grounded in reality. It was a period piece grounded in reality. And Eight is Enough, little too sugary, too sweet, not exactly in reality. It's TV. None of it is.
Yes.
But just to me, it was a show that didn't appeal to me.
I think there's a reason why people remember the Waltons versus Eight is Enough.
Okay, true. Point taken.
I think Eight is Enough is a blip, whereas Waltons was remembered because it was a landmark show.
Yes.
Yeah. When people think of Dick Van Patten, they might go, "Oh, Eight is Enough." But
beyond that, I don't think we have much to say about Eight. It's certainly not being in.
I don't think it is right now. It was at one time.
Yeah, but it's. You would think there would be a place on one of the cable channels for it if it were. But I don't think the demand for It is Enough is quite there.
No, I'm sure somewhere somebody is trying to.
Yeah.
If it is a go, then somebody says, "Hey, who's got the rights to the Waltons? Who's got the right?" They're gonna want to do a retread of that. I'm sure. And I say it, and who knows? It might be good, but it's like it's been done before. Is my first instinct.
Well, I know. Well, it gives us something to talk about.
It gives us something. Yeah, certainly, it gives us something to talk about.
It's never when you do a weekly radio talk show about television. It's never a bad idea for someone to remake something.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right with that part.
It has nothing to do whether it's good or bad.
You can enjoy Tony Figueroa's standalone podcast this week in TV history, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. We'll be back with more TV Confidential right after this.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-222-0511. 800-222-0511. Again, that's 800-222-0511.